Hey everyone, it's Nicole here with a card featuring new Lawn Fawn stamps and dies from the Fall and Winter 2018 release. This is another card featuring the double slider surprise dies. This is in the portrait type of orientation. The last card I did was landscape, and I just wanted to share another idea. This is something I had wanted to share at the time and just ran out of time. Lots of coloring again for this. I did leave the coloring in the video for those of you who love the coloring part. If you do not want to watch the coloring, just skip past that, and then the second half of this video is more the assembly of the double slider surprise. I had mentioned through my social media channels that I had come up with a better alternative for the slider mechanism inside the card. So this video really focuses on that, as well as the assembly of a holiday themed card using a lot of the same images from that Thanks a Latte stamp set that's also new for this Fall and Winter 2018 release. But kind of implement some other holiday-ish type of images so that this is great for Christmas gift giving. I have listed the colors of markers I am using across the top of the screen. I went with a kind of fun and modern color combination for my holiday card. So I've got blue, I've got kind of a greenish, aqua, teal, I don't know what you want to call it, a peachy pink color combination, and then red. So just kind of bright, whimsical, and fun. My images, as I mentioned, the coffee mugs, candy canes, hearts, snowflakes, marshmallows, all of that is from the Thanks a Latte stamp set. I do want to mention I stamped those scarves and then I decorated all of the mugs. So I decided not to use those scarves because it's going to cover up the snowflakes or the hearts on these on those mugs. So for this card I didn't use those, but for my autumn pumpkin spice card, which I will link to at the end of this video, I did. Lots of options. I love that you can mix and match. Another thing that I did different that I didn't do on my last card is there are two options for creating the coffee in the coffee mug, or the hot chocolate, as this case may be. For my last card, I used just the line and then filled the coffee mug with foam and cream and all of that good stuff. For this one, I used the marshmallows image for all but one mug. And the reason is I'm going to tuck one of these mugs inside of the other, and I didn't need that image for that. I also really, really love that you can customize the mugs, that you don't have to use them just for coffee. You don't have to use them just for hot chocolate. They really work for so many different things. In addition to the Thanks a Latte images, I've got the polar bear and reindeer from the For You Dear stamp set. This was a release from last year, the 2017 holiday release. And we are going to tuck these cute little guys hanging over the edge of the coffee mugs. Just kind of a fun and whimsical touch that I thought would really add to the overall holiday feel of this design. I tried to color everything that was one color at a time, or all similar images, I guess I want to say. So I did one coffee mug, I did another coffee mug, and then I decided to do the candy canes, and then I went for the hot chocolate, and finally my marshmallows. The marshmallows are E40 and 43. This does give them a hint of color and does not keep them stark white, but I think it adds a lot of interest to the marshmallows, and they still have enough of that white to them, but really adds that depth and dimension. We're going to color each coffee mug one of the four main colors I'm using today. So I've got that mint colored cup, the peachy pink one, we've got a blue one now, and then the last one will be red. 2 of the mugs I adorned with hearts from the Thanks a Latte stamp set, and 2 with the snowflake. In addition to the snowflakes and hearts on the mugs, in the finished card you might have noticed there's a scattering of hearts and snowflakes. I added those later. When I got to the point where I was putting the double slider onto the card, I thought I really wanted some sort of embellishment. And so I went ahead and stamped several of those and added those throughout the card. I am not going to be sharing the coloring of that in this video since I am using all the same colors that I have used already, but I did stamp a few additional images. Sometimes when you get to the finishing portion of a project, you realize little holes or things that you might be missing or areas you want to fill to really complete the project. And then this red mug is going to have a mint colored snowflake. Once I have everything colored in, I guess I've got these reindeer left to color. This is E50, 55, 57 as my brown tones, E49 for the hooves, and R00 for the insides of the ears and the pink on the cheeks to give them a little bit of a pink tint. The antlers are E50 and just a tiny bit of E55. And then we also have our little polar bear. So let's get this last little reindeer. There is another stamp set that has little hanging on critters. It has an elephant and a sloth, and neither one of those, I suppose I could have put a Santa hat or stocking cap or some sort of accessory on them, and maybe it would have been a little bit more Christmas themed, but I didn't really feel like they worked. So I did 2 reindeer so that each panel, the front panel, and then each panel you pull out in the double slider surprise has a critter. And the reindeer is definitely Christmas themed, and I thought it would work great here. My polar bear, he is mostly white, and I just used some warm grays, very light warm grays, to give him a little bit of color. Now I'm going to die cut all of these images with the coordinating For You Dear and Thanks a Latte dies, so that I have everything ready to go. Now this is the new way to make my little slider insert. I have been keeping packaging from stamp sets I've been getting. I think this is one maybe from Honeybee Stamps, and it's just a nice material. It's super easy to trim. I am cutting it into a 2 1/4 inch wide strip. The packaging that's a little bit longer, so for maybe dies or for a longer stamp set, is really going to work great here. But I am just trimming this, and then I noticed there's a seam on this side, so I just need to trim it a little bit, just a tiny bit off that side. This is actually going to give me 2, because this is the front and the back of the packaging. And I already have another slider piece that I can use for another double slider card. Now I've pre-die cut the components for this. So this is the slider track, and we are going to wrap that clear piece around this track. Let's go ahead and put our 1/8 inch score tape at the very top of the track on both the front and the back. I know there's lots of different products you can use, but someone had mentioned on my YouTube channel that they use this clear packaging, and we all have tons of it from the stamp sets and the die sets and all of that good stuff that we buy. So this is a really great way to repurpose packaging. I've got a little piece of score tape at the end of this, and I'm going to wrap this around. You don't want to wrap it too terrible tight. You want to give it it doesn't want to be you don't want it to be super loose, but you don't want it to be too terrible tight either, because it'll be hard to move. And then we're just going to trim off that excess. And then let's move that seam all the way over to the left. This is the front. So we're going to put another piece of score tape, flip it over on the diagonal, and put one on the back. This is going to be for the pullouts. Let's remove the score tape from the front one. We will line up this panel with the right side of the track piece. I am also going to tell you guys right now, I pulled this apart. This wood grain paper is awesome and fantastic, but for whatever reason, I did not think it was sturdy enough for the pull tab slider. And Kelly does talk about it on the Lawn Fawn channel that you may want to back certain papers. It needs to be a pretty sturdy cardstock to really work well. So I did back those two pieces with another piece of cardstock. It gives it so much more of a sturdy feel. Now, you need two of the pocket panel pieces, and what I'm doing here today is I'm just making a little notch in the front of my pocket panel. I didn't even make one in the back for this particular one. I'm going to do it in the bottom because this is a portrait style card. However, I still think that the slider works best if you pull both sides of the slider up and out. And I'll show you that as we get a little further into this. But I die cut the front of my pocket from the wood grain paper so it matches my slider inserts, those little panels. But for the back that's adhered to my card, instead of wasting that good wood grain paper, I just die cut some regular white cardstock, Neenah smooth white cardstock, and that's going to be the back of my slider. Because it's adhered directly to the card, you're never going to see it. I decided to, not use up all of my great wood grain paper on something that won't even be seen. So we're going to put our track inside. Let's remove the other side of the score tape now, and we can press that track, or pardon me, the pocket down over the track. Make sure that our slider pieces fit within there. And there is our pull tab slider. So there is how that works, and now we can simply decorate. Do all of the fun little putting it all together type of things. Now I like to lay things out before I commit to gluing them down. Because some of these pieces are small, I'll probably use liquid adhesive. That's a really hard thing to fix. So I like to kind of lay it all out, determine where I want everything to go, and then I will start adhering. I will tell you I made one giant mistake, and that is, you might remember when I was talking about I had stamped all these images while I was coloring, and I put hearts on two of the mugs and snowflakes on two of the mugs. Well, I didn't really want to put one mug inside of another where they both have a heart accent. I wanted one of them to have a snowflake. I wanted a little bit more variety. So you can see I put that little peach mug in the mint one. They both have hearts. And for whatever reason, I did not notice it until I had adhered it down. Luckily, I used a tape runner and I was able to pop it up and kind of reassemble without ruining anything, but I'm glad I caught that before I continued adhering all of my images to the card. So just kind of playing with everything I've got here, just determining where I want all of my images to go. Now to tuck one coffee mug into another, it's going to be much easier to just take a craft knife and cut a little slit. I've also got a background. I guess I'll talk about my background first. The background for my card, this was cut with an outside in stitched rectangle, so it'll be slightly smaller. And I die cut that from Really Rainbow Christmas paper and put that on the front of my card. Here's that craft knife. And now I can tuck one mug inside of the other. So cute. Please just ignore the fact that I put two of the mugs that are exactly alike together, because I am going to have to pop this up and fix that. And what I'm going to end up doing, the green one has to be on the front. It has to be, I'm going to have to use another mug to tuck inside, and I really didn't want two of the same style. So it's going to need to be the blue one with the red snowflake. I even got so far as to start adding highlights and all of that good stuff to my cute little images, and still had not realized what I had done. So Let's go ahead. All of this is going to have highlights anyway, so that's perfectly fine. Add black gel pen to the eyes and the nose of the polar bear and white to everything else. And then you can see when I realized what I'd done. So we're just going to pull it all apart. Really careful. And we're going to grab the blue mug and tuck that one inside instead and put that on the front of the card and put our little polar bear in place as well. And then we can start or finish, pardon me, decorating by tucking some candy canes around the mugs, some marshmallows. Really great for that hot chocolate feel. I'm using a combination of liquid glue, glue dots, my tape runner, whatever works best for the images that I have to put down. And as I'm working on each panel, I went ahead and kind of decorated as I went, or added those finishing details. So highlights, black glazed pen to the noses or eyes. It just really depended on what the image was. The reindeer's eyes don't really require that black glazed pen, but the nose I think really shows up nice if you use it. Making sure that there's little images around everything. Now I need something to help pull out this double pull slider. There's lots of options in the double slider surprise. I don't know why I called it the double pull slider. Double slider surprise. Different options. For my pumpkin spice latte card that I shared previously, I used one of the other options. This one I'm going to use the tab that has the little arrow in it. So instead of stamping pull here or whatever, that arrow indicates to the recipient that they should pull that because you're going to get an awesome little surprise. So I die cut that from chili pepper cardstock and black licorice cardstock and adhered that to the bottom pull out panel. We've got the top panel to finish. So we've got the red mug, the reindeer, a couple of candy canes, maybe a marshmallow. I do think I went back and stamped a few additional marshmallows because I didn't have quite enough. It can be kind of hard to gauge when you're just thinking up the idea, so don't be afraid to go back and add more if you need to. And I also want to make sure everything is just on the panel and not sticking off the sides because that will hinder whether it slides out well or not. And these do have quite a few things on them, so it ends up kind of making that slider feature a little bit thicker. I mean, I think it's still going to mail just fine, but I want to make sure that everything is just within the confines of that panel. Where on the front panel things can hang off the sides because it won't hinder that. If you have things hanging off of these, it will not pull out nicely. And so now I'm just going to slide it, make sure it's going to slide real well, figure out where I want to put this on my card. I'm going to center it there. And I also have greetings. I went ahead and did that off camera. I die cut the banner from the double slider surprise, stamped greetings from the Thanks a Latte stamp set with a clear embossing ink, sprinkle it on white embossing powder. I'm going to adhere this with some foam adhesive right there to the front. I will add some little dots with a white pin so that the recipient knows that the sentiment is going to continue on the inside of the card. I will show you stamping that here in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and open that up, and before we attach anything to the front, let's stamp that. I'm going to finish the sentiment, from the front, and it's going to read, "You're the marshmallows to my cocoa," is what we're going to put on the inside. And then from the For You Dear stamp set, I'm going to stamp "Dropping by to say," and from Thanks a Latte, "Happy Holidays." And what I love is the font used for these two stamp sets is the same. So I've mixed and matched them to make a greeting that looks like it was made to go together. I absolutely love doing that. It really customizes a card. And it's a great way to finish off the inside of your card really nice. Maybe you even, give this with a fun hot cocoa mix or something at the holidays. I think that would be really sweet. So we've got our inside done. Let's go ahead and attach our double slider surprise. And then we can add any finishing details. So I'm going to center that right there on the front of my card. And I'm going to slide this in. And I really do think that it works so much better when you use both hands. It pulls out okay, but if you want to put it in, I would definitely use your other hand. I don't know, maybe I got my insert too tight, but I like it a lot better when you use both hands. I think it slides so easy. I hope that gives you an idea of how well that packaging works for the slider. It works a lot better than the last card I made. So here are the snowflakes and hearts. I am adding these throughout the design. I think it decorates the front of the card. It fills in that area around the double slider and gives it a more cohesive look. So some of them are tucked underneath, some of them are right on the front of the panel, just depends. Let's slide that in and see where else we want to add some cute little accents. So I think I have about 3 hearts and 6 snowflakes that I added to the front. I didn't want to overwhelm it, but I wanted to just give it a nice overall look so that it has all these cute little accents. And when you pull out the double slider, look at how cute, extra cocoa mugs with extra cute critters. Guess we're going to add a couple more snowflakes. These were the final 2 I added. I had to add a couple more because I didn't think I had quite enough to begin with. And we'll take one final look at the slider surprise, how it works. And there is this hot cocoa card featuring new stamps and dies from the Lawn Fawn Fall and Winter 2018 release. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this holiday themed card. The supplies I used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.